the Procurement Regulatory Authority of Zimbabwe, PRAZ, it is my distinct honor to open this important convening organized in collaboration with the United Nations Procurement Working Group. Today marks a significant milestone in our collective journey to transform procurement from transactional function into strategic lever for sustainable development. If I am to follow the definition given by our events director here and master of ceremony, Andy, I think when we're talking of sustainable procurement, it speaks volumes. It's not about theorizing issues, but we really need now to drill down to the working pieces to say what exactly in our context as Zimbabwe are we talking about. And I'm happy that from where we sit as a regulator, where we occupy the public procurement spaces, and also where our partners are coming from, where they are also from the social sector side of issues, where they are also really involved in the day-to-day operational issues. I think this is a very good platform for us to have these discussions. Procurement is not simply about acquiring goods and services. It is about shaping the future of our economy, our environment, and our society. The United Nations has demonstrated global leadership in sustainable procurement, with procurement volumes, like what was mentioned, exceeding 25 billion in 2024. Guided by the principle of transparency, fairness, and sustainability, as Zimbabwe, we stand ready to align with this vision, embedding environmental, social, and economic sustainability into our procurement systems. That is in line with SDG 12.7, and for those who may not also be in the know, this also speaks to our constitutional requirements. Section 315 of the Zimbabwe Constitution speaks about these things, and when it comes to the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Assets Act, Chapter 22-23, you would find under Section 4 the objectives of public procurement. It speaks also to some of these, especially objective number 5. It speaks to the same issues where, as a government, we are also trying to align with the SDGs. So what are we here for? This forum has 3 critical purposes. 1, to raise awareness and build capacity among decision makers and on sustainable, gender responsive, and disability inclusive procurement. Ladies and gentlemen, from where we sit, we see the discourse or the discord between the two, especially for policymakers and the implementers. We really need to say at the end of the day, what is it that we need to come up with in terms of continued capacity building amongst these issues. I'm saying this on the backdrop of also having participated yet in another fora, which we call the Africa Public Procurement Network, where we had the honor to host our colleagues from the continent during the 5th General Assembly. There's a realization amongst the practitioners across all the jurisdictions that issues of capacity building of policymakers, we may take it lightly, but really there is a gap. In certain instances, including in our own jurisdiction, we carried out what we call training needs analysis, and we discovered that there are such gaps. So basically, this is one of the most critical issues which we need to look into and come up with some resolutions to that effect. Then 2, to foster collaboration and policy coherence, ensuring our national framework supports sustainable procurement. 3, to showcase innovation and best practices demonstrating how procurement can tangibly contribute to economic growth, social equity, and environmental protection. Earlier on, I was speaking to colleagues where I was giving them an example where issues of sustainability could not be achieved. At one point in time, when the colleagues from the UN working group visited our offices, when we were discussing, amongst other issues, when we were discussing about sustainability and the ills which are then caused by when we take procurement just as a transactional issue, I gave them an example where we had the unfortunate incident of Cyclone Idai, and Cyclone Idai made the route from Zimbabwe to Beira impassable. And by that time, we had a lot of our local authorities buying water treatment chemicals from outside, and they were now stuck at Beira for a reasonable time, and they could not then come to Zimbabwe. And it nearly caused a crisis. I still remember that time, water which was coming out of the taps, which did not have the right water treatment chemicals, also made us to think, to say, is this a sustainable way of procuring where we are putting the whole nation at risk if we have a supply chain disruption of that magnitude and nature? And I think at policy level, we then made it mandatory to say there must be a portion of such chemicals also being manufactured here in Zimbabwe, so that when we find some of these issues, we really not are putting our community in harm's way. We are gathered here as leaders and influencers and participants from government, the UN agencies, private sector, civil society and academia, and also financial institutions. Together, we have the power to set the tone for Zimbabwe's procurement future, one that is efficient, fair and transparent, and above all, sustainable. Let us use this forum to exchange knowledge, build partnerships, and commit to action. The events director here made mention to say Zimbabwe as a people, we have a challenge of implementation. I still remember at one point in time, we even had a minister responsible for implementation, a whole minister, to make sure that we implement what we commit to do. The outcomes we seek, policy recommendations, capacity development, stronger governance frameworks, and enhanced supplier engagement will not only strengthen procurement systems, but also advance Zimbabwe's national development priorities. Again, I make reference to the recently announced budget by the Honorable Minister of Finance on the 27th of last month, just last Thursday. There's a whole section which was speaking to procurement, these issues now where we are even talking of sustainability, the issues to do with affirmative procurement, and all other related issues. So I have got a feeling that our gathering here is very timely, so that we then speak into practical issues, which speaks to the period 2026 to 2030, because already that budget and the strategies which are being made around entities are speaking to the National Development Strategy 2, which is up to 2030. So again, our gathering is very timely. As PRAS,